Welcome back to Sitting with Spirit, my loves. As always, take what resonates with you, leave the rest. And if you know somebody who might benefit from this message or you have a feeling it's for them, please share the podcast with them. It really helps. And you're being a little rainbow bridge for people in the spirit world. So it's much appreciated. So as always, I'm going to start with the messages from our angels. And it's interesting because the energy right now feels like the duality is so turned up. We've been speaking a lot about duality in this podcast episode, and I love the synchronicities that come full circle with the Sitting with Spirit. But I felt two very real opposite ends of the spectrum happening at once. And it's almost like we're in a moment where it's like, pick your own fighter. Are you going to go down or are you going to swim up? Where's your consciousness going to go? Because with how extreme the polarities are right now, it's up to us. And so the first thing that I felt was this sense of optimism and hope and growth and magic and expansion. And as I was feeling this, I got the message, dare to dream big, dare to dream even bigger. But that part of this message is in the word dare, because the dreaming part, that's beautiful. And that vision is great to hold on to. But the daring part is the part where we then let go of the reins and leave room for something bigger than we could plan. And it's almost like a parallel to my mediumship journey, where in the beginning, my head came in a lot. And it still does sometimes, where I doubt myself, I doubt the message, I doubt what's coming through. But then through time and practice, I get to a place where I trust more. I surrender more. I don't have to have all the answers or the plan. I know Spirit's going to fill in the space with exactly what needs to be shared. And there's a similar feeling with our practice on our spiritual journey towards our dreams. It's like, can we get into the practice of recognizing that what we are trying to hold on to that isn't working, it's for the best, that it's not going to stick in our lives. And that is something that over time is proven to us over and over again. And when the thing that is right for us shows up, then we're like, thank goddess I didn't hold on with all of my might and fight for something that wanted to leave. And so they're really emphasizing the part of surrender, the part of release in the dare to dream bigger, because the daring part, like they're saying, is the part that is brave and vulnerable. And the bigger part is the spirit world, higher self-led path. So the dreaming is part of our co-creation, and then the letting the dream fill the space of something divinely guided and led. That's the part that is very brave, very daring, and very scary. And so there's a big acknowledgement here for the hummingbird community. Like, trust it, trust it, trust it, but then let go and let it fill the space and just keep following your heart, because it does feel like an up level time. It does feel like a time like where they really want to emphasize hope and not losing hope. And then I was seeing my symbol for ovaries. And when I see that as a symbol, it's talking about women. And as I was seeing this symbol, I felt a removal of energy from the throat chakra. And it feels like it's this moment where women's voices need to be heard, where women's voices need to be heard in a bigger way, and where there's something about part of the pendulum swinging back to female empowerment on a large scale is us sharing our voice, us amplifying each other's voices. And it's interesting because this connects with the person in Spirit's message. There's something here about no longer competing with each other like we used to in previous generations, but amplifying each other, being stronger together, and a need for that even more than ever. And with that, I was seeing this healing turquoise light. So turquoise light is this color of like higher divination, inspiration, intuition, spiritual connection. And turquoise is the color of Archangel Haniel. And Archangel Haniel comes to help us develop our intuition and help humanity ascend in consciousness. And I feel like there is something about this healing turquoise light that's breaking through the tension, the barriers, and the malfunction of thought. It feels like a lot of us go into these crown chakra block places where we go into these ruts and we can only see what isn't working, what we want more of, what we don't have, and we miss out on what is working, what's right in front of us, the magic here and now. And so I feel like tied into this expansion is like realizing that it's okay. We don't have to have it all figured out. I really liked what Zoe said about, yeah, we know ourselves, but the universe knows us better. And that's sort of the sentiment of this message. It's like, it's time to start filling in these gaps of unknown with more intuitive sessions, more sacred connection with your own angels and guides, more practices of gratitude, more reconnecting with your heart and your third eye and your intuition, and to really lean on that. Because as I said, the energy right now feels like it's two different realities superimposed on each other. And it's really easy for us to get into the heaviness of this moment, the intensity of this moment. But there's also so much joy and magic and light and expansion. It's like both sides are turning up the quote unquote choose your fighter metaphor. It's like both of them, the love and fear fighters, are like extra heightened and loud in our mind. And we have to actively feed the voice of love. And a part of that is letting go of the reins of control and letting ourselves fill a container that we don't have to have the perfect plan for. We just need to go step by step in the direction of our heart. As I'm recording this, I do feel hopeful. I do feel like it's this time where there's a call and an activation for the divine feminine and for women's voices and for sharing our light. It feels like a hopeful moment. It really is this message here of collective up level. It's like also a moment where, as Pluto is in the final degrees of Capricorn, it's like a graduation ceremony. Like we're all graduating into a new level of consciousness, whether you realize it or not. And it's been so focused on breaking ancestral cycles, healing inner child stuff, working within the confines of family structures. And then that goes to the macro scale. That's like the Capricorn Cancer axis. It's like Pluto in Capricorn is also pulling on Cancerian archetype since it's the sister sign. And so it's been such a graduation ceremony. And now in this moment, it's like what we've been holding on to in terms of our vision and our dream might have been created from a different version of self or a different consciousness. So let it shift, let it evolve, let it grow as you do, and don't hold on too strongly. I did have a female past loved one in spirit stepping through. She showed me that she had breast cancer and then it spread to her stomach. And this felt like an aunt on the mom side of the family. And I got an S name, like Shelly or Stacy, something like that. And I felt like there was distance, like physical distance and emotional distance, even though it seemed like she was cool and was a good person and things like that. It's just, it didn't feel like there was that closeness that sometimes sisters have. And in your case, an aunt would have. And then I also saw a connection to boats, being near the water, being on the water. I also saw blonde hair. And she was showing me that there is a history in the family of not talking about things, of there being a distance. And when things get hard or uncomfortable, it's like part of the pattern to just not talk about it, to distance, to move away, to live somewhere else. And she basically said it ends with you. And so I feel like there is this history with this person. And again, from the intros I was talking about, they piggyback off of each other. So take the messages that resonate with you. But there's something about no more sweeping things under the rug, no more disconnected, broken family living all over the world because it's too painful to come together and talk about difficult things. And another part of this is that I feel like the girls in the family, the women, were like pitted against each other, like always in competition, always feeling like there was only room for one favorite, and that there's always this sort of like ingrained sense of rivalry. And this circles back to that initial message about like ovaries, activation, divine feminine, supporting each other, amplifying each other's voices. I think it's also very synchronistic that Zoe and I had an instant connection of support and uplifting with this message on the heels of that interview. So I love how that all works together in symphony. And so this is saying this is really a call to end this cycle of deeply ingrained competition. There can only be one. It's me versus you. It's like we're coming into a new place of consciousness, and this is a big part of it, as well as not holding on to anger, not holding on to things that are painful and sweeping it under the rug. It's like everything needs to come out into the light so it's not living in our body and creating dis-ease. And I even felt that she was with a father figure in spirit, her father, and that he had dementia when he got to his later years. And it just feels like there's this long history of not wanting to remember on the energetic side of things, not wanting to remember, not wanting to think about it, not wanting to process what was uncomfortable. And so this is an invitation to anybody listening that resonates, that it ends with us. Supporting other women is actually a show of great confidence in yourself, because it says that you fully trust that you are good enough, that you are enough, and that there is enough in the world for you. And not supporting women is actually highlighting a greater wounded way of seeing ourselves. So that's the invitation here. And I feel like this aunt in spirit from the other side, they're just in pure love on the other side. It's not like they're sitting there in regret. But I know from her human perspective, there's regret that they couldn't have been closer, that the family couldn't have come together, and that the dynamic was still very much rooted in patriarchy and the male gaze, and that we're in this moment now where we have to come together and stand unified and amplify each other's voices. And that is part of the recipe for this up level moment and this magic and this expansion. Claire, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just absolutely loved all of those messages. It was definitely things I needed to hear myself. I'm really resonating with all those feelings of this moment being challenging and heavy. You and I talk about women supporting women a lot. And I had a teacher years ago who said, what if every room you walked into, you decided to have every woman's back in that room? And I just thought that was such a beautiful reframe. And, in Harry Potter, Luna tells Harry at one point, if it was me, I would want you to feel isolated because, Voldemort could take you down easier if you're all alone and you feel all alone. And I think that's something that women have historically felt like we're alone in this journey. And I think coming together with other women, supporting other women is such a beautiful thing that we can do for ourselves and each other. We're so much stronger together. And I just loved your reframe about hope. It's like in these heavy moments or in moments of letting go, it's so hard, but it is a moment of hope for something new to come in.
Absolutely. And like how supporting women is an expression of self love, because as we're kinder to ourselves on the internal, we can be kinder to women in our lives. Because, when you're unkind, it's just giving a peek behind the curtain of how you're speaking to yourself. And like this same comparison to the hope, it's like a display of strength to be attached to a vision, a dream, even just a direction or a feeling that you're calling into your life. And then having so much trust and faith in your capacity to be okay no matter what, that you can let go of the reins a little bit as the story keeps writing itself. Because it's so tempting to skip to the last chapter, but skipping to the last chapter isn't trusting the author or letting the journey unfold. So just continuing doing the best we can with where we are through this time of extremely heightened duality. There's always duality, but it's in our face more than ever. And it's up to us to cultivate our peace and our mindset and feed the voice of love more than ever. And we have to be a little bit more disciplined and structured with our attention and our consciousness at this time and on earth.
Yeah, I love that. It is a braver choice to feel hope than to decide that I'm not getting what I want or this is hard. It's like, even in the face of it being hard, deciding that I am going to have hope. Even what you said, like skipping to the end of the book, it's like, well, then you miss the journey of the book. And I don't think that's what any of us want. So thank you for those messages. I really needed to hear that.
Oh, I'm really glad. And I know that if you and I need to hear them, so do the hummingbirds because we're literally all one. So that was another funny part of Zoe's reading. She was like, "This is also for me." And I was like, "It's also for the hummingbirds
And for
because, like,
me.
and for you, and you're a hummingbird too."
Yeah.
So I feel we're all connected. We're all on this journey together, and it manifests in slightly different ways. But when I'm doing sitting with spirit and I'm reading for literally thousands of people at the same time, it's like, our angels and guides are distilling it down to the energetics and principles that can be applied to many different situations. So I'm glad that it resonates with you. I hope that it helps you hummingbirds out there. I know it's an intense time, but don't forget the hope. Don't forget the third eye awakening. Don't forget the invitation to display just how powerful you are by letting go of the reins a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah. So have a beautiful week, my love. So nice to connect with you again.